सोबत आहे तुमच्या मी.
Professor S.A. Deshpande has been awarded Masa Gold Medal 2009. Professor Shirish Atmaram Deshpande was born on 22nd September 1934, Ananta Chaturdashi, to a genius couple, Atmaram Ravji Deshpande and Professor Kusmavati Deshpande, Kavi Anil and Professor Kusmavati, both Marathi laureates, are still well-known personalities to the Marathi family. Professor Deshpande has recently completed the 75 years of his age. His school days were at Nagpur, studied architecture at Sir J.J. School of Art, Bombay from 1951 to 1956, passed RIBA examination in 1957, postgraduate diploma in Town and Country Planning at SPA New Delhi from 1957 to 1959, and also studied at Bouwcentrum, Rotterdam in 1962 to 1963. He had an opportunity to work with Corbusier at Chandigarh project. He joyfully remembers those days, but took advice of his father to take government service and joined VRC as head of architecture department in 1966. Since then, the journey began, and it continues till now. He retired as a head in 1992 from VRC, but has continued to contribute to the field as a visiting faculty in the architecture colleges of Nagpur University, and has been closely associated with Srimati Manoramabai Mundle College of Architecture, where he was instrumental in starting MArch in architecture education recently. He has also been the member of Board of Studies in Architecture of SPA and Madras University, member of All India Board of Studies in Architecture at Council of Architecture, New Delhi, chairman of Arcasia Committee on Architectural Education from 1990 to 91, chairman of Board of Architectural Education of IIA from 92 to 96, president of Indian Institute of Architects for the term 92 to 94, and has been awarded IIA Madhav Gold Medal for lifetime contribution to architecture education in 95 to 96. He has been the source of inspiration for all the teachers who have been in his contact for whatever duration, and to the entire fraternity of students of architecture.
I never decided anything. Well, I don't want to confess, I still don't decide anything. It's the fate, it's the situation. It so happened that गणपतीचे दिवस होते. आर्किटेक्ट D.G. करंजगावकर हे मुंबईचे प्रख्यात आर्किटेक्ट, प्रॅक्टिसिंग आर्किटेक्ट होते. So when he came home, I had made some decoration for the गणपती. हे मखर केलं होतं एक तयार मी, कार्डबोर्डचं कापून वगैरे, काही मॉडेल वगैरे करून ठेवले होते. So करंजगावकर wanted to know who made all that. So it's my father who said that this is the boy, he likes to make such things. He makes good models. Is that so? So before Karensgaonkar left, he must have said to my father, I didn't hear that send him to architecture in J.J. School. That is when my father remembered, architecture, find out. So he found out. I didn't know how to find out. He found out and said की एक aptitude test असते, drawing वगैरे करावं लागतं, तर तू प्रॅक्टिस कर जरा ड्रॉइंग वगैरेची. बापूसाहेब आठवल्यांनी चित्रकला शिकवली, म्हणजे शिकवायचा प्रयत्न केला, थोडीफार मला आली. त्याच्या ड्रॉइंग वगैरे काढायला सांगितले होते. जे काही काढायला सांगितलं होतं मेमरी ड्रॉइंगचं ते आठवत नाही मला, पण जे लिहिलं होतं तसं मी काढलं असेल म्हणूनच मी पास झालो. स्कूल डेज are always enjoyable. It was so much fun. Why are we made to draw always the right hand side of the free hand before we drew the left hand? Then our artist friends would tell us it is more difficult to draw the left hand. That is why the simple thing is the right side. I see, okay. And now we understand. Such was the interaction. We were a group and we all sat together in the same canteen, and that is what held us together.
As far as Professor Deshpande is concerned, he is a son of very famous people, namely his father, late Atmaram Raoji Deshpande, a famous poet known as Kavi Anil, and his mother, an authority on English teaching in the Morris College, late Kusumavati Deshpande. So he has inherited qualities from his parents which have benefited the development of the department as well as in general students of architecture are also benefited, because Professor Deshpande has extraordinary oration skill, very simple and sweet English, and you are spellbound the way he talks to the students and all that. I have got all the regards for this and wish him further good life, healthy life and a successful life.
Liking and enjoyment are not the same. I wanted to experience Delhi also. So I said, this is an opportunity to go to Delhi. And so I went to Delhi and was admitted to the School of Town and Country Planning. I walked in, the director, Professor Manikam, saw my file and said, okay, you are admitted. He didn't ask me any question. So I was confused. What is this interview? So I said, sir, but would you not like to? Look, you passed 2 parts of RIBA. That's good enough for me. Go on. Join from tomorrow. So I went there.
He's one of those few leading educators in India who has developed a philosophy of education and who has contributed immensely to developing new innovative methodologies of teaching architectural design. Many generations of architecture students have benefited from his wisdom and from his guidance, and they have evolved their own distinctive expression in architecture. It was no surprise that he won this gold medal, which he could have won many, many years ago if we had an organization like MASA much earlier. Professor Deshpande has contributed immensely to the development of architectural pedagogy. Nagpur is one of the centers for higher studies in architectural education and the related fields of urban and regional planning. Professor Deshpande has contributed to development of this facility at Nagpur. He is one of those witty speakers who enthrall you with their ideas and viewpoints in any seminar or conference. I remember distinctly that whenever he would speak, he would add his wit, which reflects his wisdom, and it makes that interaction very memorable. I wish him good health and long life, and I'm pretty sure that many generations of architects have been inspired by him, which will continue the work initiated by Professor Deshpande.
But even after postgraduate education and so much of input, I had some uncanny feeling that I know enough, but not good enough. I must find out, I must learn, I need to learn something more. And that is when the offer to go to Chandigarh came, and Chandigarh was equal to Corbusier. Offer from Chandigarh, no matter where. So it is in pursuit of that image of Le Corbusier framed in my mind. Oh, there were pictures, but that is not the real image, that is just a print. I said, let us go, let's see. Seeing Le Corbusier in person. From Chowdhury's office, many times, our friends working in the capital project office used to send a message, ओए ओए करबू का आया रे, करबू काम कर रहा है, देखना है तो जल्दी आ जाओ. साइकिल उठा के हम भागते थे कैपिटल प्रोजेक्ट ऑफिस में, और दूर से देखना, कहीं ऐसा करके देखना, कॉर्बूसियर कुछ बात कर रहा है, जॉनरे है, मैक्सवेल फ्राई है, जेन ड्रू है. अराउंड अ टेबल these 5 great personalities about whom we had only read or heard in the postgraduate course. One such evening when some of us parked our bikes and went for a walking along, then one of my friends, quite a well-known friend now, his name, Romesh Khosla. So he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Oye, dekh karbu aa raha, karbu." Achha. So we looked, and the typical figure, tall, dark-rimmed glasses, loose tunic jacket, loose baggy khaki trousers and shoes, and walking briskly along with genre. So dekh, karbu aa raha. We just froze in our places and just stood there, didn't know what to do. Not enough courage to say, "Good evening, sir." Probably he wouldn't understand because that was English. We just didn't say anything, not a word occurred. We just stood there and both of them passed by like that. And I just standing like, Corbusier. I've seen Corbusier. So on. That was the turning point. At that time I had a doubt in my mind whether Corbusier really does not know or doesn't want to speak English. I remember the lower staff, what we call the class 4 staff, always used to refer to Corbusier as Kharbuja Saab. "Arey Kharbuja Saab, abhi aaye nahi, abhi aane wale honge, chal ja, Kharbuja Saab." For them, Bousier, the French word, was as simple as kharbuja, the fruit. It was, as you know, Kharbuja is seasonal. Corbusier's visits were also seasonal. So that was Chandigarh.
Professor Deshpande gave me an excellent overview of things. Professor Deshpandeंनी मला खांद्यावर बसवून architecture दाखवलं. That is how you show your student as to what the kind of perspective you give to your student when you're dealing with things like even PhD for that matter, when it comes to understanding a particular field better. He's been a great inspiration to me, and he's been a guide and philosopher to me in many ways. And I would say that I learned a lot of things from him.
When do I return to Nagpur? There came the advertisement for the post of Professor of Architecture, Assistant Professor of Architecture in Vishweshwaraya Regional College of Engineering. Homecoming of the prodigal son of Nagpur. So I came home. I went to VRC to give my joining report. So he said, "Okay, go and report to the head of Department of Architecture." There is a head of Department of Architecture. "Okay, sir. Do you know where he is?" I said, "No, sir, I'll find out for what." "Go to the Polytechnic." अरे पॉलिटेक्निक, हाँ सदर मध्ये आहे बा पॉलिटेक्निक. ते NELPचं ऑफिस माहिती होतं, एक चिमणी होती तिथे, त्याच्या मागे एक पॉलिटेक्निक असायचं. अच्छा ते काय, तिथे मला जायचंय. ओके फाइन. प्रोफेसर MK दवे, हेड ऑफ डिपार्टमेंट. दवे है कोई. वहां पे गया तो दवे, a slightly elderly person that I was, suddenly stood up and said, "Sir, sir, sir, welcome, welcome, welcome." सर सर कर रहा है, ये आदत नहीं है ना हमको. सर का कौन करता है वहां पे. हो गया. Those days also passed.
I think the most touching thing that I would like to say about him is more than a father to me. He gets disturbed with very little things which are related to us, and that takes him a little ahead of what exactly he is. We sometimes believed each other, we sometimes did not, we contradicted each other, but the outcome was always excellent. And I hope to have many more such years to be working along with him and sharing, discussing, and still coming up with some more innovative and newer ideas so that things or the study of architecture goes forward in a still brighter prospect.
मला कोणी शिकवलं शिकवायचं कसं. मला माहिती होतं की मला शिकवायचं आहे. आणि मी शिकवायचं कसं, मी शिकवलंच नाही ना आजपर्यंत, मग मी कसं काय शिकवीन. But as I later found, that was the best way to begin learning to teach. As a student, I remembered I must have committed hundreds of mistakes in those 5 years. But I don't remember my teacher saying that this, you have made a mistake. Very good, very good. But you can improve it. That is how I learned architecture. I did everything that today's teacher complain about. Coming late to the lecture, sneaking quietly, taking the nearest place and sit there. And before your name was announced, you should be in, because then you can say, yes sir, attendance mark, then you can do what you feel like doing. What did the students would do? How many times the teacher did this? How many times he did that? How many times he said, eh? How many times the teacher repeated the joke? Basically, how not to teach and how to teach was something that one has to acquire by oneself. We are now running courses on transmission of knowledge. But remember how you learned. And if you have drawn a lesson from what you have learned, that will make you a good teacher. So as a student, how did I learn? Did I actually learn? If the answer was negative, then now I know the teacher never taught. You only transferred material, information from here to there and left us alone. What was teaching? Those were the problems that ran in my mind while we were becoming an identifiable entity on the VRC campus, the Department of Architecture.
Everybody is really very happy. Deshpande sir has received the MASA Gold Medal 2009. Every moment probably he is always thinking only about education and about architecture education. We do so many things, we go get back to him and then show him, and many a times the reply is, so what? What next? What again? What further? And for a moment we might be slightly disappointed by that, but that's the point where again we start working further. Most important thing that we have learned from him is actually how to deal with our students. What should be our relationship with students? I've seen his involvement with students, and with that involvement, he guided me as well as he guides every student, even at the undergraduate level, for the thesis. And every time there is something new that comes up. May it be a presentation technique, may it be dealing with a particular topic or anything.
Professor Indapur, who was not very well read as far as the foreign literature on architecture was concerned. But he was spiritual. So he could understand the soul of the problem. So was my reading, because he was spiritual. Ultimately, until and unless you understand the soul of the problem, how can you find an appropriate solution? He understood the soul.
Professor Deshpande has become a kind of a threshold over which I measure. He's become a Mapdand kind of thing. Sometimes he's very forthright, sometimes he's very non-diplomatic, and that way he keeps hurting people or antagonizing people. But in the long run, if people understand what he said, what he meant, then probably it is for their own good if they understand.
का वाहत गेला? जे काही मला करायचं होतं ते बरचसं केलं, बरचसं राहिला याची जाणीव झाली. पुन्हा काहीतरी शिकायला पाहिजे, नवीन वाचायला पाहिजे, काहीतरी करायला पाहिजे, नाहीतर मी पट्टीचा मास्टर होईल. म्हणजे सिलेबस संपवणे हे मुख्य ध्येय. विचार करायला थोडीच पगार देत आहेत कोणी. माझ्या 5 दिवस आधी जॉईन झालेले प्रोफेसर छत्रे, ज्यांना 10 ऑक्टोबर 1992 ला डिपार्टमेंटच्या चाव्या दिल्या. काय केलं मी? VRC इतके वर्ष, 26 वर्ष काही दिवस पहिने वगैरे काढले ना तिथे. That was the prime period of my life because I was maturing as well and thinking as well. First of all, I understood that process of transmission of knowledge or teaching which I never understood as a student of architecture. And now I wondered where the teacher who taught me architecture, did he understand such process, yes or no?
He is one of the best orators that I have ever come across, and I don't think anyone can match his skills as far as oratory is concerned. The in-depth knowledge that he has of any topic, apart from architecture as well, is phenomenal. Same in juries, जब jury में वो कभी jury लेते थे, मालूम चलता था हमको कि देशपांडे सर आने वाले हैं jury में, तो हमारे तो ऐसे ही used to be like absolutely फटती थी, मतलब literally वो क्या बोलेंगे और क्या करेंगे. Half of the battle was won by him, when the name used to come that he is going to be there on the jury, and he used to just rip apart your designs if you wanted to, and what me you just couldn't argue with him because he always had a point and it was so logical and so clearly stated that you were absolutely dumbstruck in front of him what to say, and then you realize कि if he has आपकी पूरी dissection कर दिया design का and पूरी ऐसी तैसी कर दी design की, तो आप used to wonder what kind of, used to get a little inferiority complex, यार हम क्या कर रहे हैं, हम कुछ भी सीखे नहीं, and but then you used to be angry also, you used to get angry also, यार ये क्या है, मतलब what kind of attitude is this and all. But ultimately जब आप when you sit back and think, and we used to think and whatever he has said, फिर जब हम realize करते थे कि यार ये this is actually valuable input, and this is the input that is actually needed for the improvement of the design. And I've always, the way I talk or the way I talk in the class, the way I approach a subject in the class or my approach to students, have always been influenced by his style of teaching, जिस तरह से वो पढ़ाते थे. I think we have been very fortunate to have him as our teacher all the 5 years that we had. And I think this young generation is actually missing a great teacher, and great teacher who was responsible for shaping the lives of so many architects all over the country now, who have been his students earlier. The younger generation is actually missing something, is seriously missing something.
While I was in the final year, I bought my own vehicle. So I bought my Lambretta scooter in Mumbai, 1956. And I took this scooter all along. She kept me company, that is the scooter I'm talking about. She's still with me, but she refuses to listen to me because she is too old. Not only that, I am too old to kick-start that old scooter. Most of my past students, later on from VRC, know me with my scooter. And the number of kicks that I had to start it and go home. Bunking, you see, the word was never used. This bunk is your generation, not my generation. We never bunked the classes. When design was discussed and drawing was to start, I remember architect Vaman Gore, a very well-known practicing architect, used to say, "ए साले तुम्ही स्टुडिओत काय करताय रे? चला कॅन्टीन मध्ये बसून आपण चर्चा करू." And we are not in the studio. Will you call that a bunk? It was just the change of environment which made our teacher speak a little more from the bottom of his heart. So get out of that rigid rectangular volume and formally arrange drawing tables and then talk of concept and freedom. You will be surprised, even history lectures overflowed into the canteen because many of our history teachers had been abroad. They studied in England, they did their RIBA in England and wandered in the continent. So when they taught us European architecture or Gothic, they would say, "ए साला चलो कैंटीन में जाएगा." I'll tell you क्या मजा आया फ्रांस में जब हम आईफिल टावर देखने गए थे. It could not be taught in the classroom.
I know Professor Deshpande more as a friend. He has a very, very deep sense of historical perspective. Also, as a teacher, he is very humble, very sort of considerate, and would always take care of the students more as a father figure. And in terms of education, I think he was quite versatile in terms of teaching. Today, I think India suffers for want of moral teaching, moral education and moral understanding. And I believe it was this person who had that understanding of moral in technical teaching also. And always I found that he always scored in terms of moral values, in terms of teaching. Gave us a wonderful story about Indian way of philosophy. And he said that a housewife is cooking in the village, in her kitchen, and child is playing outside in the open yard, and suddenly a saint comes and asking for the alms. And why housewife being very busy in the kitchen, she doesn't come out, but she tells the child to offer and give some alms to the saint. And the child happily, without bothering for anything who he is and what he is doing, he picks a little bit of grain from the kitchen and offers to that man. Now that is the first way of learning in life, to give rather than to receive.
Teaching, learning had become almost a part of my life. Was that to come to an end? I was not very clear whether what would I do thereafter.
Congratulations, sir, for getting this award. I think it is too small an award for a towering personality like you. And I also feel that perhaps for a change, one of the youngest teachers has got this award, because I feel, and I know for sure, that of all the people and so-called teachers that I have met in my life, you still are the youngest, both in heart as well as in mind. When I look back and on those years in VRC and post that, both as a student as well as a faculty member out there, your vision and your encouragement, and also a simple way to look at life, has been a big driving force in the way in which I have thereafter looked at life. And all of us fondly remember you, recall you as a person who has inspired us to do not just well in architecture, but to do well as a person, because all of us know, and I personally believe, that perhaps you are one of the most honest of persons that I have ever met. It would be a great pleasure on my part to be able to assist you or to do anything under your guidance. I've spent almost about a decade or so in academics as a faculty member, most of it under your own guidance. Although we didn't agree with everything that we did together, but that gives me a great amount of confidence, because you acknowledged that things are changing and they will change, and therefore you have moved with times, and therefore you have always been, in that sense, in sync with the way we think. The new generation thinks. You have been very successful in passing it on to several generations.
Has received this recognition. It's nice to be recognized. It gives a sense of satisfaction. It's not the gold in the medal. It's the love and emotion that is golden. And that is this medal. I don't know where does the future. I didn't know in the past also. Things just cropped up. And I just took the clue and said, that's it, go ahead. I take that path. I don't know what's the path that is. It will come up as the time passes. I am not worried about that. Whatever be the path. Today I know where I have come and are waiting. I am waiting here And now, new direction that suddenly comes to my mind. Get up? Let's start. Until then.
You know, when we talk about sad, we don't talk about sad, being sad, but we talk about sad because we're so happy talking about sad. Cheers.
सोबत आहे तुमच्या मी, सोबत आहे तुमच्या मी, काही दूर पर्यंत गडे हो, काही दूर पर्यंत, परंतु पुढती नाही म्हणुनी, परंतु पुढती नाही म्हणुनी, नसो खेदवा खंत गडे हो, नसो खेदवा खंत. आहे सोबत तोवर आहे, आहे सोबत तोवर आहे, तुमचे सर्व पसंत गडे हो, तुमचे सर्व पसंत, तुमची माझी कामे करिता, तुमची माझी कामे करिता, नच खेईन उसंत गडे हो, नच खेईन उसंत.